you've got me by about a little more than 10 years. So I want to know, what was it like growing up and being able to hear albums by Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and The Doors and the Beatles coming out for the first time them?
Well, I had two older brothers. One is 3 years older and one's 5 years older, and they both have amazing taste in music. So when I was growing up, there were all these great albums at my disposal. Uh, they both collected vinyl, and my one of my brothers went on to open up his own record store, which he still continues to this day. And so, in some cases, like literally thousands of albums, which is hard to fathom. Um, but since they had such great taste, they would kind of force feed me the best stuff in their minds, you
Yeah.
know. So I was exposed to a lot of great music at the very beginning. Um, we were listening when I was really young. We were listening to mostly soul music. We were hearing the Beatles and the Stones, but we were mostly hearing the Four Tops and the Temptations and Otis Redding and Wilson Pickett and Sam and Dave and Aretha Franklin and Stevie Wonder and that kind of stuff. Uh, and then my oldest brother brought Sly and the Family Stone into the equation, and I loved that. And then it wouldn't be too long until we were hearing Hendrix and Cream and Johnny Winter, and that was the stuff that made me want to pick up a guitar. Um, when I first heard Dark Side of the Moon, I was probably 13 or something like that. And there was a bass player in my hometown that had the record and turned me on to it. And I knew even at that young age that there was something going on beyond most of the music that I was listening to, you know. But I was also fortunate that between my two brothers, they included so many genres of music. My oldest brother listened to a lot of jazz, a lot of Sonny Rollins and Cannonball Adderley and Miles Davis and John Coltrane. But he also listened to Howlin' Wolf and Elmore James and Muddy Waters, and my other brothers listening to B.B. King and Albert King, but also listening to Bob Dylan and Joe Cocker and Traffic. So from a young age, I got a sense of what it's like to like a lot of different types of music.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking, like, when I was in my teenage years, maybe my older teenage years, it was sort of the 80s heavy metal stuff. And so, like, that was new to me. Like,
Yeah,
I remember buying Motley Crue records when they first came out, but I always wonder with amazement what it would have been like to buy a Led Zeppelin record brand new and hear a Led Zeppelin record for the first time.
yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And I remember when the live Led Zeppelin record came out, and a friend of mine who was DJing on the local college radio station had just gotten the song Remains the Same and said, "Have you heard the live Dazed and Confused?" And I said, "No." And he said, we have to hear it. And of course, we were a little under the influence and listened to that for the first time, and I just had never heard anything like it. You
Yeah.
know, but I was already, at a young age going through a phase where I listened to a lot of pretty heavy music. My One of my brothers had Black Sabbath, and I would hear that stuff. And when I because we were buying in the early days, we were buying singles, what they called
Sure.
45s, and they were 77 cents a piece um, for two songs. But when I first got enough money to buy my own album, I asked my oldest brother, "What should I buy?" And he told me to buy Alice Cooper Killer and Jethro Tull Aqualung. So that's the first two albums that I purchased with my own money.
And you probably still listen to them to this day because of that
I,
sentimental
they
connection, right?
they both are embedded in my brain for sure.
For sure. And that's interesting because that kind of brought up the question I wanted to lead into. When I got a link to stream the album, your new album, it's very important to me to listen to albums. I don't listen to albums the way that I did when I was a kid, going out and buying it and putting it on the turntable and reading the liner notes and throwing it over. It's so, I don't want to say it's disposable these days, but it's so easy to listen to music
Yeah,
that I don't put a lot of time. But with this, with your new record, I was like, I need to dedicate that time because I want to listen to it start to end. I don't want to pick it up in pieces. I don't want to listen to it here and there. And I think kids miss out on that these days. That that
absolutely.
that feeling that we had. But I will say that like the new record, it's start to end. I mean, it's going to be a double record, right? When it comes out.
Yes.
I mean, even side D, I mean, I think it closes as strong as it opens, which is, a great thing. I mean, I always grew up thinking that the last couple songs were always the throwaway songs. That's kind of the impression I always got, but they're certainly not in your case.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and it is very important to us to put together a sequence that we want people to experience the record in.
Yeah.
Uh, and I love the way it starts and the way it finishes. And a lot of people say, "Well, why do you worry about that so much? Nobody's going to listen to it that way." Well, some people do, and a lot of our fans do, and we should at least give them that opportunity.
Yeah. It's also for me, I also listen to music very situationally, and I close my eyes and I'm imagining the summer that I'm going to spend with the record. I imagine I'm certainly not a grill master. I just in my backyard. Um, but I certainly imagine listening to your album outside. It feels very summer-ish. Was the
Yeah.
intent to release it in the summer, or did that just how things worked out?
I think it was just the best overall choice based on when we could tour and all that sort of stuff. But I do agree that it's a good summer feeling record. It's also a good record to drive your car to.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Along those lines as well. So I'm sure you're at a point in your career where you don't need, I mean, creatively, you need to write new records, but you don't need to, right? You could go out and play shows for the end of time with the stuff you've already recorded. Is recording new records, is that why you do it? Because you still have all this passion burning in you to create something?
Yeah, I know in the case of a lot of artists and bands, especially from the classic rock era, so to speak, if that's the right word, um, their fans aren't as open to their new stuff as they are to the stuff that they grew up with. And luckily, with Gov't Mule, our fans seem to really embrace new music and are really looking forward to the new music. Um, but for me, I would feel like I have to do it regardless, just because as long as I'm inspired to keep writing and performing, I'm going to want to do new material.
Yeah.
I do love the fact that we can choose from 12 studio albums worth of stuff, and our set list varies on a nightly basis. So whatever show you come to, you don't really know what you're going to get. This year we'll be doing a lot of new material, but we'll also be doing stuff from each period of our career, so to speak. And that's one of the things that keeps it fun for us and for the audience as well, because I don't think people are going to want to keep coming back and coming back if you're playing the same 15 songs night after night.
Right. I saw The Who last year, and midway through the set, they introduced a new song, and I don't know, I don't even know when their new album came out. And I'm sure you've experienced this. Like 25% of the audience got up and went to get beer and go to the
Yeah,
bathroom.
yeah, and that's unfortunate, but I understand it as well. I remember Paul Simon said a long time ago in an interview that the music that we love in our most formative years is the music that will stay with us. And that's usually 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. That music, whether it remains your favorite or not, it's still embedded in your brain, and for me, it started even earlier because thanks to my two older brothers, music was in our house all the time, all day, every day. So, as an example, my oldest brother had the first Allman Brothers record in 1969. I was 9 years old, but I was listening to it because they were listening to it. and I loved it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so the Dark Side of the Mule stuff, did I read correctly? So this is going to be the last run of doing these dates?
Yes, we had kind of decided that we weren't going to do it anymore, and then somebody reminded us, well, you know, this is the 50th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon, and we thought, okay, well, let's do it one final time. And it's a blast. We love doing it, but it never was intended to be something that we did a lot. It started out as something to do on Halloween in 2008.
Yeah.
Because every Halloween we do a special thematic show where we give ourselves permission to do another band or artist material. You know, we've done albums like Who's Next,
Yep.
Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy. We've done 90 minutes of Hendrix. We've done 2 hours of Neil Young. We've done Black Sabbath, Paranoid. We've done all sorts of stuff through the years. So we decided in 2008, let's do a Pink Floyd show. And the audience really latched onto it and kind of demanded for us to do it more. So we released the recording, which we weren't intending to do. And it just kind of turned into a thing organically, which is probably the best way.
Yeah. It's so interesting to me how well your style of music works playing that music. I mean, it sounds so natural and good and almost like you wrote it.
Well, you know, for us, we're kind of finding a balance between interpreting it our way and paying homage to the original versions. So on a song by song basis, we kind of reanalyze that concept. Some of them we take a little further toward the way we would do it, and some of them we kind of leave alone. Um, but you know, we have so much reverence for that music that we don't want to take it too far away.
Yeah. There are absolutely days where I will stand by the saying that "Shine On You, Crazy Diamond" is the best song ever written. I mean,
Uh,
I
One
can't
of
get
mine
enough of
for
that song.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, if I had to choose, it would definitely be a contender. You know,
yeah,
that's a fantastic song.
yeah. So these dates, the Columbus date does not have Jason Bonham, but you do have Jason Bonham playing some shows with you.
Almost all of them. For some reason, he couldn't do that one.
Yeah,
But yeah, most of the shows are with Jason Bonham's Led Zeppelin evening, and it's fantastic. He has a really great band, and hearing that music, and then we do a set of Gov't Mule songs that kind of transitions into Dark Side. And for people that don't know, also, Dark Side of the Mule is not just Dark Side of the Moon, it's other Pink Floyd stuff too. And we don't play every song from Dark Side, and we play stuff from Wish You Were Here and Animals, and even some of the early stuff sometimes.
yeah. I mean, to me that going back to talking about your record sounding great in the summer, like seeing you guys and Jason Bonham on a bill would be amazing. I did see him last year. He was actually they picked up a Columbus date because a Minnesota date got canceled, and they were actually on their way to New York, I think, to meet up with you, and they were picking up dates to get there. So I did get to see that, and
Yeah,
wow, what a amazing night of music. That
yeah,
was so
really
good.
great, really
Yeah.
great.
And you've done, I mean, you've done shows with him before, right?
Yeah, we've we've jammed together a few times, and we he came to Jamaica this past Island Exodus, which is a Gov't Mule event. Um, this will be the first time that we've officially had the two bands on the same bill.
Okay. I stood out in the parking lot afterwards and got him to sign a couple CDs, and he was mentioning how getting from Minnesota to meet up with you is so expensive in this day and age with the buses and the gas and everything, and that he was really picking up dates so that he could meet up with you at some point. How difficult is that for you guys to tour these days? Is it a strain because of
You know,
cost?
it is in the way that everything has gone up. You
Yeah,
know, when people complain and bitch about inflation, the music business got hit really hard. Hotels are more expensive, buses are more expensive, fuel is more expensive. And, you know, like sometimes we'll travel 8 or 10 hours after the show. We have two buses and two semi trucks. That's a lot of fuel.
yeah,
And so for the cost to be doubled is a major expense, you know, and we try to not pass that expense along to the ticket buyer. So it is a challenge, but you know, there are ways of dealing with it, but it is a complaint.
For sure. And would you say, would you put yourself in the road dogs before the studio band, or do you consider them equal?
Well, I I really enjoy making studio records. If I had to choose, I would choose live performance.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I don't have to choose. What we're trying to capture in the studio is what we know we can do on stage, and it's thankfully due to having an audience that not only gives you this amazing energy, but encourages us to kind of go off the cliff a little bit. Our crowd loves it when we experiment, when we improvise, when we don't know where we're going to wind up. We're fortunate to have an audience that loves that. And we're not scared of making mistakes because our audience kind of embraces that, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful thing.
I've talked to a lot of bands who have told me that there is stuff that they do record that they know that they'll never be able to play live. And then I've also talked to bands who said what you just said, that not playing everything note for note is better than playing everything note for note, because that takes away that the rock show, the feeling that you should expect
Yeah.
something going off at some point.
Yeah. And I think for us, it's a song by song basis. Some of the songs we adhere to the original version much more than others, but even the original version was played with some spirit of improvisation.
Yeah.
Whichever version we settle on was different than the one before it and different than the one before that. But sometimes those recordings have a way of seeming like the proper blueprint, especially on the shorter song oriented type numbers where you go, okay, well, we should play it more like the studio version most of the time. But occasionally, you know, a year or two down the road, you discover some new way of interpreting it that you would never think of, and then it's inspiring again. You know?
Yeah. And I definitely wanted you to plug, the other great thing is that you record stuff and you make it available to people. And so it's not like we do something different and, oh boy, we hope people don't hear that. Like, you embrace that. You want people to
We
hear
have
it.
to, yeah. From the
Yeah.
very beginning, 1994, when we started Gov't Mule, we allowed tapers to come in and record the shows as long as they didn't make any money off of them. We encouraged them to tape and trade the tapes. And I guess around 2004, we started a thing called Mule Tracks, which is our recording of the shows, which are very high quality, and we make them available to the public. So even our worst nights are available along with our best nights. But we're kind of used to that after all these years. You know?
Yeah. I mean, frankly, is that another good source of income for you? Do people buy
Absolutely.
them? Yeah.
Yeah. The downloads and the streaming are quite a source of income for us. We're into the millions of downloads through the years.
Yeah.
Um, and the only reason it's successful is because we do a different show every night.
Yeah.
If it was the same show night after night after night, nobody would have any reason to want it.
Yeah. And the fact that it's soundboard recordings. I have a box full of cassettes that I can't seem to get rid of, but I don't know that I have any way to play them, of shows that, like, I stuck a tape recorder down my pants in 1987 at an Ozzy Osbourne show, and it sounds awful. So to be able to have like a soundboard recording is something special to remember that show that you were at.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, we take a lot of time and effort to make sure that they sound really good.
Yeah. Do you think so? I know you recorded 2 albums at the same time. Was that, I know lockdown was a pretty awful thing, but did that give you the luxury of time to record those albums? Or were you on track to record those albums anyway? Or do you think that those albums would have been further out if you probably would have stayed on the road or something, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we were due to make a record.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't have done 2 records, but starting with the fact that lockdown gave me all this time to write music. I had more time to write than I've had in a really, really long time. So I accumulated a lot of material that I wanted to go immediately into the studio and record. And since the whole lockdown thing was such a challenge for, we couldn't travel, we couldn't tour, we couldn't perform on stage. So spending a lot of time in the studio was the way of maintaining some sort of creative process and keeping from going crazy.
Yeah. Um, let's see. I think I got one or two. Oh, in terms of, you had a lot of guests on the record, which again lends different flavor to the sound, adds some stuff. Had you already handpicked those people to be on the record, or did you, when you were writing the songs, did you hear their voices? Did you hear what they could bring to a song, or was it after you heard the song you thought they might need something else?
It was usually a gradual process. When I was writing the songs, I wasn't thinking about guests, and not really so much until we got into rehearsing and arranging. And once we got into the studio and we start hearing the stuff back and thinking, oh, well, it would be cool to have so and so join us on this. Um, and in the case of like Billy Gibbons for "Shake Our Way Out," that song has a lot of ZZ Top influence, so it was kind of an obvious choice. And he and I have worked together a lot. He appears on one of our other records called "By a Thread." He's on a song called "Broke Down on the Brazos." Um, and we stay in touch. So I thought it would be really nice to have his presence on here. Billy Bob Thornton and I have been friends a long time, but never done anything in the studio until now. But I felt like I had written a song that I wanted to hear the verses, excuse me, that I wanted to hear the verses talked or spoken instead of sung.
Yeah.
And he just has one of those great narrator voices. And so I reached out to him to be part of it. Celise, I've only discovered in the past few years, and I really love her playing and singing. I was looking for a female gospel voice to kind of counteract my voice and Just Across the River, and she was perfect for that. With Ivan Neville and Ruthie Foster, they had both worked on my Man in Motion record, which is a solo record I did a few years back. I love the way our voices blend together, but I also love their voices as lead vocalists. So I had kind of thought about Sly and the Family Stone, which takes us back to early influences.
Yep.
How those records, one person would sing one line, and then another person would sing a different line, and then Sly would sing a line, and so I thought it would be kind of cool to take that approach for that song, and they just really brought it to another level.
Yeah, it definitely has that classic rock timeless feel. I don't know that there's a ton of bands doing that, new bands doing that. Do you keep up on what's going on, or are you so busy writing your own stuff and touring, or do you know do you listen to new music?
Well, I try to. I'm usually behind. I'm not. I'm never listening to something as soon as it comes out unless somebody tells me, "Hey, you got to check this out."
Yeah,
Uh, but I do try to stay open-minded about as much new music as possible. And unlike some previous decades, I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on now, and so I'm trying to make myself aware of it, and not to be influenced by it, so to speak, but be influenced by uh, where it comes from.
yeah,
Like what inspired it. Like when I hear Celise, I think about, well, she obviously listens to some modern music, but she's also listened to Sister Rosetta Tharpe and Aretha Franklin and all these great soul and gospel singers that came before, but is blending it together in a fresh, new sort of way, and that's what I like to hear is somebody that has one foot in the past and one in the future.
yeah. I think it was last year, Marcus King.
Yeah,
I mean, he's another one that kind of gives me hope for somebody who blends that past and present and future.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you listen to music on, do you listen to Spotify and stuff, or do you still buy records?
Uh, I still buy records. I usually just download stuff and put it into my library and listen that way. like I don't take a turntable on the road,
Sure.
you know, but I still enjoy vinyl and love the fact that our audience still enjoys vinyl. Um, but listening to music digitally is, as you mentioned, is very convenient, especially if you're traveling.
Yeah. I have pre-ordered through Amazon the record, so I can't wait to actually own that on vinyl. And one recommendation, I don't know if you know the band, and they're long gone now, but Blind Melon.
Yeah.
The guitar player has a solo record out, uh, Town with an E at the end, Town and Stevens. If you get a chance, it's very 70s kind of influenced. It's something I've been listening to a lot that I really enjoy. And
Oh,
he
I'll check that out.
he recorded it in with his bandmate in during COVID. It's not going to come out on vinyl. He just wanted to put some music out, and
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really into that, and you might dig it. I don't know.
Yeah. I look forward to checking it out.
Awesome. I think I've got everything I need. It's been an honor to talk to you. I'm just a big fan. I'm super. I've never seen you live. I know that seems ridiculous because you play in Columbus. You tour all the time, and the fact that I haven't seen you, but I am, July 26th, Columbus, circled, ready to come. So I'm
Great.
very excited to check you out.
Great. Well, I enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you enjoy the show.
I'm sure I will. All right. Have a good. You play tonight, right? You got a show tonight. The first night.
Yeah, our first show of this run is tonight. We're in Jacksonville, Oregon.
Awesome. Very good. All right. Well, I'll see you in about a month and a half.
Sounds great.
All
Thank
right. Take
you.
it easy. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye.